With the influx of Chi-Fi in-ear monitors, we find the market is rather leading to a situation in 2023 of an extremely busy, convoluted and complicated market in the $500 and below region. There are so many options, so many superb options, it's rather difficult to choose the right in-ear monitors for the right occasion for you when it comes to your wallet. So CMA is bringing you a shootout between the Moondrop Variations, the Moondrop Kato, Moondrop Starfield, Moondrop Aria respectively. Shall we begin? On this very busy table, we have a variety of in-ear monitors that should be sufficient to find the right unit for every user at every price point from below $100, $200 and the $500 ceiling for the lower tier in-ear monitor market. There will be some others from other manufacturers that I will mention, such as these two here. This one is the Litshore S12. It won the award for best in-ear monitor under $1,000 for price to performance ratio. And this one inside this Shure case is actually the Tin Hi-Fi T2 Plus, which we will get into later. So first and foremost, let's have a look at the accessories we get with these monitors. This leatherette cigarette type case is what's supplied with the Variations. This beautiful inlaid velvet wallet style case is what's provided with the Katos. $520, $179. And finally, these two little round hamburgers that looks like basically what McDonald's gives you. They seem to be getting smaller and smaller every year, aren't they? For the Aria and Starfield. A special thank you goes out to Mimic for sending all of these units in for review. A very special thank you to IFI, Chord and Chris for the P6 Pro, Diablo and Chord Hugo 2 for the testing of these videos and others for the duration while they're here. So, nice cases. I prefer the Kato case out of all of them. It's the most pocketable and the most ergonomic. It's magnetic. It's ultra quick digging the IEMs in and out, and that velvet interior makes sure they're safe because they're made of steel. These tiny ones for the Aria and for the Starfields are very tiny and zip, and it's not like this one either. This one's magnetically clasped as well. It takes a little bit longer. Obviously, if you're on the go, it's just a bit more ergonomic. So well done Variations. This one's a little bit bigger. This one's more for a backpack. Well done Kato. This one is the best. And these other two are adequate. And then finally, we get the cables. I will come to the IEMs, I promise. But let's look at some of these cables that comes with Aria first. This one is cloth covered. Doesn't keep its shape, but it does get tangled very, very quickly, and the hooks behind the ears is very well designed so that it's rather snug behind the ear, which I actually genuinely like. But because of the curve of that plastic material, it does tend to hook like a fish hook on a lot of bends in the cable, unfortunately, like this, and you're gonna have to spend a few minutes doing this. But then once you do, it's straight, it's perfectly nice, and it's braided. And it's got a 3.5 single-ended output jack. And it's not too bad at all. I actually don't mind this one at all. So I'm going to place that Mia. This one is pretty decent. That's for Arias. This one is a little bit more and it's actually more expensive for the Starfields. That one obviously being silver-plated copper, I believe, and this one is braided again, but ultra thin with this hamburger-esque splitter that you can't pull up and down to actually tighten the clencher thing. But over the ears is okay. It's not as nice as the Aria one. I do have a problem with this cable though. Actually, we'll get onto that in the caveat section. So this one's a bit plasticky, rubbery. It's kind of to be honest with you. So let's place that one over there. This cable is for the Variations. It's braided, it's copper, it's very interesting when we come to the termination. These are all 2-pin, so you can literally change cables for all of these units on the fly with any third-party cables, just a standard 2-pin. Absolutely brilliant. Let's put the variations over there because we don't need those at the moment. But I would like to discuss this part of the cable with you. This is excellent. Look at the termination of the jack at the end of the cable. It's a square sort of connection with a bunch of pins, so you can actually switch out between 4.4 being this adapter and placing it back on the end of the cable is very easy. So that one's balanced. And then inside the little cigarette lighter pouch, we get a bunch of tips, obviously, usual standard. 2 sets of everything, medium, small, and large. This is a 2.5 pin balanced for your ES100, etc. And this one is a 3.5 single-ended. So you can literally change the actual termination on the fly. I've never seen anything like this before. Well done, Moondrop. That is inspired, genuinely. I honestly appreciate that. The cable sounds okay. I think you could do better, but being able to change from balanced to single-ended depending on what device you got for the variations, that's a win. Well done. And finally, let's detach the drivers because we don't need those right now and place those over there because I'm going to come to all the drivers in a moment. Being the Kato. This has the same cable as the Lidshore S12 that won the award last year. This braided cable is ultra nice. It's single-ended. It doesn't keep its shape. It's slightly weighty and behind the ears is nice. This sort of Kevlar-esque material for the left to right channel is really well balanced. It spools nicely like this. It's soft. It's non-audiophonic. This is the best cable you're going to get under $500, period. In fact, this cable might be better than a lot of $2,000 IEMs I've come across. It's honestly astonishing. I can't believe an IEM such as the Kato and the Lidshore S12 comes with something like that. Finally, let's jump onto the drivers. Let's start as we mean to go on with the ARIA drivers. This matte finish material is rather comfortable, it's rather thin, and once you place it in the ear like so, it does not stick out of the ear. The bore is not too wide, though I do have a little gripe with 3 of these units. I will bring that up in the caveat section because it's rather freaking annoying. 2-pin again, very nicely done. The contour of the ear is not bad, so that the dip in the ear sits very nicely, and the contour is a little bit understated, but it's a very comfortable fit. Isolation is okay. It's not bad. It's a nice little unit, so I'm going to place that one over there. Actually, we're done with the cable, so I'm going to just put the IEMs. Every time we get rid of a cable, I'm going to yeet it over there, off camera. So these are the Arias. Very nice. $79, you can't be asking for more. Honestly, it's one of my favorite IEMs under $100. That includes the TNT2 Plus, which I will get onto in a moment. Let's see which one you are. You are the Starfield, so yeet, throw that over there. This is the Starfields. They are more in reminiscent of the Kato, with a bigger bulge for the inside of the ear. No contour for this part of the ear, but it's still ultra comfortable with the same problem as previously, which we will bring up on the bore itself. Very narrow, not bad. A lot of tips and variety of tips fits on this. Nice materials, genuinely. I actually like this a lot. This is quite nice, and a 2-pin connection, very easy to adjust on the fly when you got other custom cables. So let's place those ones in my leather tray here, like that. Aria here and Starfield. Meow. Variations, actually I'm going to come back to those. Those are the most expensive. So let's go on to the Katos and its cable. Yeet. Here we go. The Katos. This is very much in reminiscent of the Starfields. That sort of shape. And the bore is fantastic. It actually is swappable between brass and steel, and they both give a different set of sound. But unfortunately, due to the fact that all of these were demos that came to me, this is the only bore I got, and the sound characteristics of this IEM will be bound to this one. But it's got a ridge around the bore, so any tip you put on it has no chance of being yanked off inside your ear canal. It's very easily screwed on and off in regards to the bore itself. 2-pin, very comfortable, nice bulge for the inside of the ear. No contour, but the actual shape is designed to go inside the ear and it doesn't stick out, and happy days. I genuinely think this is fantastic. Isolates a little bit more than Aria. Starfield seems to isolate a little bit more than Kato's, which is surprising. Finally, we have the Variations. This is the biggest out of the lot. This is more designed for the shape of the human ear. You've got the bulge here for the gap inside the ear, the bowl of the ear basically. The contour is a little bit more prominent and defined, and it actually slides into place perfectly. The bore is bigger though. Look at the size of that monster. This one is a big boy, but it actually suffers the same problems as the other two, which I will get onto in the caveat section in regards to putting tips on and off. It's bigger. This thing sticks out of the ear, but the way the bore is angled and the way this part of the IEM fits into the ear canal, you get a much better isolation, much more actual better fitting. It's rather comfortable, so I'm going to place the Variations on my tray. So we've got all four. Let's throw them here like this. Excellent. A quick specification rundown. 3 of these, the Aria, the Starfield, and the Katos, are all dynamic drivers, 10mm, just different variations of materials. The Starfield is carbon nanotubes, which is very exciting, and the other 2 are different variations of dynamic drivers, which I will momentarily throw on screen. And obviously we have the Variations, which has a 10mm dynamic driver by itself just for the bass, 2 balanced armatures for the mid-range, and a pair of Sonyon E-stat drivers for the treble region, with crossovers according to the boundary obviously. So only the Variations has a multiple driver set, the other 3 are all dynamic, and on screen you will see a side-by-side comparisons of the features and specifications from frequency response, which we've got 3 pairs of 32, and we have a 15 sensitivity going from 118, 22 and 23, and we also have the various materials for the drivers, so you can actually pause the screen for a moment and familiarize yourself with these specifications. They're all pretty damn easy to drive because they all exceed 100 dB sensitivity, and anywhere between 15 and 32 ohms you're good to go. That's the housekeeping out of the way. Let's talk about the sound. Incidentally, the sound characteristics of these IEMs, I'm going to arrange them according to their neutrality. I'm going to put Variations first. The Variations is the most neutral sounding IEM. You come here, let me put these 3 at the back for now. So Variations up front and center, the most neutral, the most balanced, very punchy mid-bass, digs deep in the sub-bass, mid-range is neutral, treble region is just neutral. It's a very flat sound signature, and incidentally, the Variations really does change with tips, so you can play around. I actually like using the Litshore tips, which are a little bit more open bore, a little bit bigger, a little bit better ceiling, and it really does give you a fantastic response. Tonally, they're quite forgetful. So basically by that, what I mean is you actually just get the music and nothing else. You can never really characterize the sound signature of the Variations. It's just very, yeah, I'm here. I'm neutral. I'll give you punchy bass when your EDM track asks for it, and I will punch hard. I will give you very quick, very articulate sub bass that does not roll off around the 20-30 Hertz region. I will give you a nice mid-range where even your most horrible tracks will only be highlighting the nice part of the song. Everything else, we'll throw it away. We will give you just enough separation to satisfy you. My name is Variations, I am a jack of all trades, and I do okay in the sub-bass region. maybe that's where I'm a master at. My bass region. It's punchy, it's dynamic, and it sounds freaking awesome. But otherwise, I'm nondescript. I am relaxed. I am neutral, and I will give you what the song requires. So, Variations, the most neutral. Kato is the next one. It's a little bit more lively. It's a little bit more sparkly in the mid-range. It's a little bit more sparkly in the treble region. It drops the mid-bass punch by a little bit, but it's articulate and it's all very well balanced and linear, and it's tuned the best out of all of these four. It's the nicest. It's the most biggest sounding stage, relaxing, good for office work. It doesn't overly distract you. Very good for jazz tracks, and it's just nice. Every part of it is eloquent. It gives you just enough detail for this category of IEMs to go, wow, how the hell are they doing this? It gives you just enough sub bass. Actually, sub bass is really well done on Kato. It's there, it's not overpowering, and it sustains itself well. Not only that, when you listen to pop songs where sub bass is not always prominent and visible, but when it does show up, you take a pause and go, oh, hey, this track's got sub bass, that's interesting. It's the best IEM I think you can find in this category. Litshore S12 might take it for some category, but overall I think I prefer the tuning of Kato and the treble region of Kato. And the sub bass and the bass region of Litshore S12 is more punchy. It's far more like the Variations in performance because of that planar driver. But obviously this variation is dynamic, by the way, and that's quite a feat. It's very dynamic. Kato is well balanced, and I think these days I might choose Kato over S12s if I'm looking for a bit more reference, but Litshore S12 is more fun. Mid-range is a bit more forward, and it's a bit more punchy, and it's more comfortable. Let me dig them out actually, so you can actually have a see at the drivers. Same cable, obviously. Look how tiny these are. So when you put this in your ear like so, it's tiny. It doesn't take up any room in your ear, and they are the most comfortable out of these 5-6 IEMs on the table. They are definitely my favorite for fit and for fun. But I think Kato is a better tuned IEM. I think it might be slightly better. Okay, so neutral, and then Kato's with a slightly more emphasis on the mid-range and treble region, but so subtly it just gives it a little bit more of a sparkle. And it's more exciting. I've never found the Variations exciting, it's just been there. It's just been okay, and it's just been good. A very good performer. For the 500 region, it's actually very good. But I might actually reach out for something used in the higher tier category of 800 to 900 for 500 and pick one of those up. But genuinely, I do like Variations. I do. And I think its bass region does stand out. Next, we are entering the slightly V-shaped category. Still neutral, but in comparison to these two, is Aria. Gives you a touch more sub bass and mid bass, and a touch more elevation in the treble region, and the mid ranges seems to be kind of linear and rising up nicely, but the emphasis is on the bass and on the treble in a decent way, in a slightly exaggerated way, but not too much, not pushing into the V-shaped territory by a lot. And I actually like Aria, and I'm really surprised that these things cost $79. They're tiny, they fit in the ear nicely, and they're comfortable. Look at this thing. And they isolate pretty decently with these tips, rubber tips. I don't like foam tips for any of these. Thank you for Deconi for sending out their foam tips to us. I really do appreciate it. But tuning wise, they did not work with any, but finally, the Starfields. It was the nicest on these. These are the most V-shaped out of all four, and obviously these IEMs are non-V-shaped. So we're just talking in variations against each other. Neutral, slightly more sparkly, then Aria, and finally Starfields. Starfields is more emphasized in the treble region. Dynamics on Starfields is better than Aria, better than Kato, and I would take dynamics of Starfields, even over Variations. This carbon nanotube driver is excellent, though its resolution is not as high as Kato and not as high as Variations. You do get a little bit of grain, but what you do get is punch from the mid bass because it's exciting, it's slightly V-shaped. You get emphasis on the sub bass and mid bass, and the treble region is nicely detailed and articulate, especially for delicate stuff, and it does a very good job. It's rather punchy, it's rather quick, and it's a very nice IEM. I honestly think technically the Starfield overall performs better than Kato, performs better than Aria, and it's kicking the heels of Variations. Starfields is a little star. But if you are looking for slightly treble emphasis and slightly mid-bass and sub-bass emphasis, tips change this a little bit, equipment changes this a little bit, but that's the sound characteristics of these ones. Where Aria was a little bit more, okay, I'm worth less than $100, I'm tuned very nicely, but take me with a pinch of salt, okay? I will give you enough detail to give you a decent performance. I'll give you nice sub-bass and mid-bass, but I am a little bit more dirty, I am a little bit cheaper, and I can be a little fun for you, is basically what Aria is saying. So, how do I rank these? I think I would rank Kato for overall very, very closely set by the Variations. Variations is a better IEM, don't get me wrong, it's a better IEM. It's a better quality of bass than Kato by a lot, not even by a little bit. Its mid-range is nice, everything about it is nondescript, and it just does well. This is the best IEM out of these four. But my preference, I would rather reach for Kato and Starfields above the Variations, personally. Variations are better IEM, but I'm bored. I never think about the IEMs. I'm never really over impressed. I'm never overly anything. I just listen to the song. So for some of you around the office, it's the most non-distracting of all of these four. Then Kato, which gives you a shocking moment occasionally, but it's non-distracting and it's fantastic and it's comfortable and it's only $189 or $79. Please check down below for all the information so that you can actually get the best pricing. Okay, that gives you a nice summary of all the IEMs. Shall we do the frequency response breakdown and comparisons with the track? Let's begin. First and foremost, I'm going to use the EDM track Lilith, describe these IEMs to you in regards to its performance. So please click on the link down below to have a listen to that track and listen along to what I'm saying so you get a good idea of what the hell is happening. First of all, starting with the Variations. The initial sub-bass, angry monster, as if it's been released and it's demanding its bills to be paid, coming at you front and center. The control, the depth, the elevation, the articulation Variation takes. Then I would give it to Starfield next. Then I would give it to Kato. Then I would give it to Aria. Though Aria is a little bit more emphasized, it's just a bit more dirty and uncontrolled. But the control comes from Variations. And then finally Starfields. It's pretty damn decent. Mid-bass punch for this track, as it kicks, will be given to Variation, Starfield, Aria, then Kato. Kato is the most recessed in the mid-bass region. Some of you might love this. It's the most neutral, balanced, yet with a less impact. And when you turn up the volume a little bit, it does tend to break up a little bit in regards to performance. That's where distortion kicks in, so definitely no. The upper bass region. This is a bit more tricky. I would give it to Kato first, for balance, for not encroaching on the mid-range. Then I would give it to Variations because it does sound a little congested. The whole bass region, from sub-bass to mid-bass to upper bass, is a little bit thicker and congested at times on Variations when a busy track really does kick in, like this one, when everything collides together. Then I would give it to Starfields and then finally Aria. Mid-range. Neutral, flat, Variations, but Kato I choose the best out of all. Then I would choose Variations, just because of the fact it's so neutral and it's just dead bland and I'm a mid-range guy. Then I would actually give it to Aria. Then I would give it to Starfield, because a little bit recessed. Going to the treble region, Kato. Every time, anytime, because it's the most well-balanced, it's the most well-tuned. For detail, retrieval and dynamics, I would give it to Starfields. Then Variations, and then finally I would give it to Aria on this track. Stage is a tricky one. Kato takes the biggest stage for this track. So when that synth is playing and that angry monster is right there and you get the airiness, Kato takes it over all of them. Stage is huge on this thing and it's surprising. Then I would give it to Starfield out of the remainder of the three, then Variations, and then finally Aria. Aria does feel a bit not quite there. It's not quite on the same level. Obviously, as you can imagine, being the cheapest, it's actually showing its price point. Vocal information, textural information, and nuance of vocals, I would give it to Variations first, because it's so well done. It's actually fantastic. Then I would give it to Kato, then Aria, then Starfield, because Starfield seems to be a little bit overshadowed by that treble region, which is a little bit forward. Variation is just so balanced. Kato is so balanced. They do a really good job. The mid bass and the bass region of Aria is colored, so therefore it kind of impeaches on this sort of region of the vocals, which I don't really like. I mean, it's a fantastic IEM for this price point, but we are comparing to all of these other three. A very nice set of 4 IEMs from Moondrop, $500 down and below. So, discussing the equipment, obviously, there's a lot here. So we have the lower tier stuff. So we have the IFI Go Blue for Bluetooth, and then we have the M15, the best dongle under $500. This one connects to your phone. This one doesn't need a battery. The Go Blue does. They both give a very excellent performance for all 4 IEMs. The M15 is more smooth, liquid sounding. The Go Blue is neutral, reference, and a little bit warm in the mid-range, which I actually like, but the treble region is not quite as refined as M15. I don't think any of the dongles are, to be honest with you, under 500. And then obviously I tried it on the Hugo 2, £2,000. But this is what we do on CMA. We actually put drivers on the highest equipment, no matter what price point they are, so that we can get the best out of them to see what the drivers are capable of. So the Diablo, most reference, and it's actually quite dry sounding with a touch of warmth in the mid-range. Punch is excellent across the board, as you can imagine. Performance is fantastic, especially for the 32 ohm ones. The 15 ohm one, we had a little bit of difficulty with volume control because it's so powerful. And then we have the Mojo 2, where you can get a very decent sound, especially when adding crossfeed to some of the closer in IEMs, where it opens up the stage a little bit more. In fact, actually, the X space on the Go Blue adds that sort of nice slight openness to the sound stage in the analog domain for the IEMs that require it. Kato doesn't, obviously. That's been a good experience. I've not had a bad experience on any of these units. And Mojo 2 obviously has DSP correction, so you can boost the bass, mid-range and treble region to your liking and dial some of these units in if you were to touch any of them. I don't recommend it, but in case you were thinking of that. Hugo 2 with a warm filter, cool filter, neutral filter, etc. has been absolutely fantastic. As you can imagine, it's a £2,000 unit. With, for example, Starfield, I like to put Crossfeed 2 on there and the third filter, warm, and it's just lovely. It really is a fantastic performer. And scarily and finally and terrifyingly, we have the Luxury and Precision P6 Pro, a $4,000 DAP. This is basically like having a $5,000–6,000 system on the desk, on the go with you. As you can imagine, it's a ladder DAC in that thing that has got the same capability and performance as a Spring 3 from Hollow Audio. It's freaking great. Oh my god, especially Variations. Pushing these to its absolute limits, you get such a decent performance, such a nice sound, and oh my goodness. Stage opens up, textural information, pushing all of these drivers, even baby Aria here, to its absolute limits. Dark background. So performance on the P6P has been thus: Kato first for tuning, Variations close behind, Starfield, and then finally Aria. It's been sublime. But what do you expect? It costs, I don't know, 40 times more than some of these. I don't know, it costs a lot more than Aria, for example, and it costs a lot more than Variations, like 8 times the price maybe or something. It's insane. But yeah, it's to be expected. So when you do put any of these on P6P, you are gonna get the best performance that the drivers can possibly deliver and cry about it in the meantime. Conclusion, let's do the scores. Which one do I choose personally? I think if I'm being realistic and honest with myself, Variation's the best IEM out of this lot, but Kato has the best tuning. So basically, if you can have a Kato and an M15 or a Go Blue still coming up under $500, I think I would genuinely take that. Or a Kato, a Starfield, and possibly some other Bluetooth dongle like an ES100. I think I might take that genuinely. But if I'm actually looking for a $500 IEM that performs like a $500 IEM and it's the only one I need, and I need it to be the way we've been describing this, I would choose Variations, obviously. So, Kato, 5 tigers out of 5. Absolutely fantastic. Variations, including price point and materials and everything, 4 solid tigers out of 5. The reason why it's not 5 is because it's just so neutral. Just so, yeah, I'm okay. I'll give you what you need. That's it. That's it. It just smiles at you and that's it. So 4 tigers for those. Starfield, definitely this one is a bit more of a taste. I think this one deserves 3 solid tigers because that treble region and the slight dirtiness of the driver might put some off. It's by a tiny bit of a hair. It's better than Aria, obviously, but not quite on the levels of Kato and Variations. And finally, I will give Aria 4 solid tigers. Not only because it's only $80, but because of the tuning, sound quality, and everything you get. Honestly, and that cloth-covered material, 4 solid tigers. Special thank you for Mimic for sending these units in for review. It's been a great deal of fun. If you like reviews such as this, and you want to get them before anyone else, consider joining Patreon, where your support literally goes to helping the channel, for paying our editor and our cameraman Jamie, and it saves paying out of pocket, and it genuinely just makes life easier by using the money from out of pocket to bring you more and more equipment in for review. Your support on Patreon goes to helping the channel, paying Jamie, our camera person, and Bitwolf, our editor, and seriously be a great help to us. But if you can't do that, your like, your share, your subscription is all I require from you. Until next time, I'm Koji CEO. Stay safe.